Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unleash Her. I'm Roberta, your host for this podcast, and I am so happy that you're here. I have a beautiful guest today, my dear friend, Tressen Bryant. Hi, Tressen. How are you?
Hi, Roberta. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me with you today.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you. It's been a while since we've talked, so catch me up on everything too, and tell everybody a little bit about you and whatever you want to tell, your story. Give it to us.
Sure, sure. My name is Tressen. I am a certified health and life coach. I am a speaker and I am about to be an author, and that'll be happening in June. And I am a mom of two great kids. They're 19 and 20 years old. I have two dogs. Hopefully they won't bark while we're sitting here and visiting with each other, but um, you know, I'm doing great. I'm doing really good, and I'm happy to share my story. We can kind of get into that as you want to. But yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so glad that you're here. And so Unleash Her is about confidence and taking that next step. Now, I didn't know what's this book thing.
Well, I have been wanting to write a book for a long time, and I know that you are familiar with that feeling because you had the same thing, and then you went and did it. So, one of the things that I remember reading in your book is that you said that once you decided that you were going to do that, opened up for you. And of course, we both believe in the law of attraction and creating something for yourself. And once you say yes to the divine or the universe, then people and places just show up. So I have been wanting to write a book for a long time. And I went on it. There's a lot of speakers on there and they were giving their advice. And one of the women was a publisher. And she just happened to be giving away a free chapter in an upcoming collaborative book that she is publishing. And so I was sitting on this summit and I was like, oh, snap, I am going to win that chapter. So I listened to her. She had a lot of really great things to say. And at the end, she was talking to the host of the summit. And she said, okay, pick a random number between one and whatever. And he picked number 32. And my comment was 32nd. And she chose me. And I won the chapter. So it was just the coolest thing ever. And now I'm connected with this wonderful writing group. And we will be publishing a book called The Book I Read. And it's volume 2. And what it is that it's a collaboration between several authors. I think there's 20 of us, maybe more. And each person gets to say something about a book that they read that changed their life and write a chapter on it. So yeah, I mean, it's great. We're
Oh,
going to have our launch party coming up on June 25th, and and what it's really done for me, Roberta, is once I started writing that 1,500 words, I just got this bug and I was like, wow, now it's time. It's time for me to write my actual book.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
yes, super excited.
I love that. That's such a good way to get started too. And it kind of happened to me as well. I contributed to another book and it kind of all happened the same time that I was writing
Mhm.
my book, but the
Mhm.
other one came out first. So it was like, but it was good. You're like, oh yes, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? That's what things like this show are all about is
Yeah.
we can help build up someone else's confidence by sharing the things that we've done. And so those other authors who inspired us to say, "Oh wow, maybe I can write." How cool is that that they've encouraged us to move forward with something that we've been dreaming about as well.
I know exactly. And that, you know, probably 15, 20 years ago was when the first time I said I wanted to write a book, like that long ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the person that I shared it with, I mean, basically like laughed in my face. You know,
Oh,
I I know.
no.
So, needless to say, I did not pursue that at the time.
Yeah.
And plus I thought, yeah, like who am I kidding? Like I didn't even go to college. So how am I
Hmm.
going to do this?
Yeah.
And so it really put that negativity that inside me, and then it just like it went away. So I didn't think
Yeah.
about it again until just a few years ago. And so I'm here to tell people too, just do not give up on your
Yeah.
dreams. Okay. But
So
can you tell
true.
us
Oh, go
what
ahead.
book? Can you tell us what book yours is based on?
Mine is based on Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is.
Mm.
And so in the book, she talks about I was in a very, very toxic situation. And in the book, she talks about being a lover of reality and taking a look. So, say you think of something in your mind that is catastrophic or really, really awful. And essentially, what you're doing is you're leaving the present moment and you abandon yourself for either something that happened in the past or something that you believe may happen in the future. And as you well know, we can't control either one of those things, but what we can do, all of our power lies within the present moment, right here and right now. So I was kind of abandoning myself in this situation. I was also really trying to figure out what I could do to make it better, but I didn't have a partner that was helping me do that. And when we give away our power to another person to believe that that other person can help us feel better in some type of way when they're in no shape whatsoever in themselves to do that, everybody loses in that situation. So what
Mhm.
she taught me in that book was to become a lover of reality. And when I viewed this other thing outside of myself, this relationship that was damaging, I
Mhm.
could say, do I really need this person to change in order for me to become happy? And the answer was no, I don't. I can choose to be a lover of reality right where they're at, love them unconditionally, and then make a choice for myself from a place of heart-centered love for myself. And one of the biggest teachings that she shows you in her book is that it isn't until you have a thought about something that you place meaning on it. It just is what it is until you
Yeah.
place your meaning onto it. So in her life, she was afraid to go outside of her house. She was an alcoholic. Her children were very much afraid of her, and she found herself in a home for people, and she lived in the attic because no one else in the attic could get along with her. And she didn't feel like she could sleep on the bed. She didn't feel like she deserved she could even sleep on the bed. So she woke up one morning on the floor and she noticed a cockroach was walking across her leg. And it wasn't until she placed a belief on the bug that she felt discomfort or like she was suffering at all. It was just a bug and that was it. And she could have just been a lover of the reality of that and let it go. But it was only when she began to resist what she thought about the bug that she. So in that moment, she tells people that she just became 100% freed. Her soul was just completely freed in that moment because she realized that she is in charge of her own thoughts and beliefs. And it wasn't until she started placing beliefs on her husband or her kids or her outside experience that she suffered. So from that, um, it was quite empowering to me because during those times in my life, I wanted to kill myself. I didn't want to be on the face of the earth anymore. I was suffering so much, wanting my circumstance to change. And I didn't know how to change it. And when I finally realized that the only thing that needed to change was myself, it literally set me free. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was very powerful.
Definitely. I mean, so did you okay, so you attracted this book into your life, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Yes, I need this. And
Yeah.
then is it one of those books that you've like read time and again, or is it the one that it just hit you the first time you read it?
Well, it's a little bit of both for her book because she will teach you what is called the work in the book. And I
Okay.
use that with my clients now on different levels. It also really made me realize, Roberta, that nothing on the outside of me needs to be anything different than what it is in order for me to be happy, truly happy. So she teaches you 4 steps in the book called the work. And so it's the practice, it's the ongoing practice of doing the work. Sometimes we have to do it on a daily basis. Sometimes we do it when we have something really big and heavy that comes up in our life. But I often refer to the book and to the work, and it's been something that's been an ongoing gift to me. I've also shared the book and given it to so many people who still are having a really difficult time wrapping their heads around the fact that nothing on the outside of you has to change. And I know I keep saying that, but I can share just a little bit of my life experience if you want me to.
Yes, please.
So when I was young, when I was 8 years old, my parents, I was pretty darn happy kid. I was a tomboy. I was collecting all the stray animals in the neighborhood, climbing trees, had plants and loved the dirt and loved to be outside. And I rode horses a lot. And my parents decided to get a divorce, and it was very,
Mm.
very difficult on me. And my mom moved us away quite suddenly, where we went to go live with my new step. We had a really large family. There's 8 girls and 4 boys in our family. And so we had a big combined family, and that's a whole nother story for another day. But um, about a year after their marriage, we all moved into a house together, and some physical abuse started to happen. And some of it was pretty rough. Um, and so it was really, really scary. And it was during a very, very scary time. And so over the course of the time that my mom was married to this guy, in 3rd grade, they proceeded to take me out of public school and they taught me at home. And I didn't think I was smart because of that, because I was trying to sit at the table with my stepfather, who was my math teacher, and I was terrified of him. So I couldn't learn from him very well. But there were so many incidents that I basically grabbed a hold of, just like you mentioned you didn't think you could write a book because you didn't go to college. So
Right.
you grabbed a hold of a core belief
Yeah. Hmm.
and you attached it basically to yourself. And there were a lot of these core beliefs that I picked up throughout my life. And because I didn't feel like I was smart, then I began to use my physical appearance as currency. And so I thought, well, I can be accepted by my peers and I can be accepted by people in my life as long as I look the part, right? As long as I'm pretty and I can show up. I didn't feel very worthy because I felt like I was a bad kid. I felt like I must have done something to deserve being physically abused, because there were so many kids. I was right in the middle of all of those kids, and not all of those kids were physically being abused. It was mainly me and my older brother and a younger sister. And so what I didn't know was that my older siblings had spoken out against that. And I didn't know that. And then my younger siblings, I basically was more of a protector to them to keep them from being injured or harmed. So I carried a lot of that for a really long time of my life. And then my mom let me go back to public high school for 1 year. And I don't know why she let me do that, but I thought it was the most amazing thing. And I went back in as a junior in high school. And I really was in a high school where we were in a very small rural community where there was a lot of cowboys. It was, it was kind of cool because I was a tomboy. We still had home ec. I mean, I'm 55 years old. So, I'm kind of taking us back in a time machine there. But the girls definitely felt like they had to look the part for the boys during those times in our life. Okay. And I got myself into further trouble, and I was raped at age 15 by 2 boys who I thought were my friends in high school. They were supposed to be taking me and a girlfriend home one evening, and they took her home, but they didn't take me home. They drove past my house and took me out to a farmer's field where one of the boys took me out of the car. And that's how I lost my virginity. So more further damaging effects of me believing that as long as I could get things on the outside of myself to go well, that I would be happy, and that as long as I looked a certain way, I could be happy and I could make people in my life like me. Or we all want these things. We all want a healthy attachment to the people in our lives, and we want to be able to do that in an authentic way. So if we have to, we'll lose an attachment or we'll lose being authentic in order to stay attached to someone, right?
Yeah.
So we want love, safety, and belonging. So there I was, and I got myself into this situation, okay? It doesn't excuse the behavior of the boys. They were where they were in their learning and their part of society in that time. So that carried on throughout my life, and it turned into a lot of drug abuse. It turned into a lot of alcoholism. It turned into really bad relationships in my life. It turned into terrible financial choices and decisions. I was a drug dealer at one point. If you could look at me now, you would never, ever know that I was a drug dealer. And
What?
I can tell you all of these things now in such a
Mhm.
straightforward
Mhm.
way
Yeah.
that I'm walking living proof that we can come through these things and we
Mhm.
can grow through them. Um, you know, it's all has to do with what we place and believe onto ourselves. And so, that book changed my life. I think one of the biggest things, when we initially talked about doing this podcast, I knew I was meant for more. And what I had to do was go and seek out thought leaders and coaches and mentors who had done the things that I wanted to do, because I didn't have a clue. Growing up in that type of environment, we were very, very controlled and very religious. So, the morning after the rape, my parents figured out where I was, and I was literally picked up by the neck by my stepfather, put into the car, taken home, get dressed for church, and then gone and sitting into a pew at church, right?
Yeah.
So there went my belief in any sort of spirituality or religious belief, or definitely my belief that there was a higher power that loved me. And so
Mhm.
again, I began to continue to give my power away to everything that was external. So, the good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. And once I started finding these coaches and mentors and got on a path,
Mhm.
I started to learn about embodiment.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that is really when I became unleashed. Because, girl, let me tell you something. You can learn something. If I come to you and I tell you how to ride a bicycle, and I go, well, you got to push down on the pedal, and you got to move this around, and
Mhm.
sometimes your pant leg might get stuck in the chain and you might fall over, or maybe if
Mhm.
you get wobbly, you're going to go off a curb or something. You're never going to know anything about what I'm talking about until you actually get on the bike and practice
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
So the embodiment piece, these steps in her book, we both have a common coach in Kathleen Cameron and Bob
Yeah.
Proctor,
Mhm.
mentors of our taught us to actually not only read and go to the classes, but to take these practices into our life. Your daughter talks so much about journaling in your book. And I know that that was a pivotal thing and a tool for her to be able to cement her words out on paper and to see herself. So I could go on for ages, but really what I focus on now is helping my clients and audiences transform the damaging events of their lives and turn them into dynamic moments of change, which is exactly what I've been able to do with my life.
Oh my gosh, there's so much I want to say.
Okay, bring it
I know, I
on.
know. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. We're all like, we want to ask you so many questions. But so one thing we had mentioned earlier, I think before we started recording, was that so my daughter did a lot of journaling, and then she
Yes.
ended up taking that and putting it in a song,
Oh
in
man.
music. And so we were talking about the healing properties of music.
Yes. Yes. I've learned so much because one of the things that I had to learn is that the traumatic events that I experienced in my life got stuck in my body.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that.
They get stuck in your body and they cause dis-ease.
They do. They do. And so what's happening to you is that
Mhm.
you are not able to process and move through an event. So you get stuck in fawn, freeze, flight, right? Or
Mhm.
fight. And your
Mhm.
body gets stuck there. So what happens to a little deer when it gets attacked by an animal? It falls down, it freezes, it stays still. The animal may come over and sniff it. If it thinks it's not alive, then it goes through and maybe it carries on and goes away. What happens then is the little baby deer lays there. It's able to start breathing again. It's able to shake it off a little bit, and it's able to either cry out, and then it's able to run. And that is the full process of trauma moving through. It's just like a little child when it falls down and cries. We've taught people to not cry, but that is the natural response to a traumatic
Mhm.
event moving itself through your body. So one of the things that I do with my clients is I teach them somatic tools. And we were discussing about how music is a somatic practice. And somatic basically just means your body. So when you can sit and sing at the top of your lungs, you're moving energy through your body and releasing pent up energy that's in there. And not only that, you're creating something of immense beauty when you're doing it.
Mhm.
So, somatic practice is the practice of regulating the nervous system. And song is one of the most powerful ways to do that.
Yes. Too, we even said just humming and whistling. I love to hear people whistle. I'm
Yes.
like, oh, they're so happy when they just hear them whistle. It's
Yes.
just, yes. Oh, what a great explanation, too. I love that.
Yeah.
So when did your, I guess, the journey?
Hmm.
I mean, we're on a journey our entire lives, but when
That's
did the
right.
journey of healing and transformation begin for you?
That's a wonderful question. And I love that you asked me that because I really can tell you that I think my kids probably saved my life.
Oh,
Um, I have a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old, a son and a daughter, and I was still in a very crazy time in my life. I was the person who was heavily relying on alcohol to remove myself from reality and the pain that I was feeling. And so, it wasn't uncommon for me to drink an entire bottle of wine on my own while I was cooking dinner. It wasn't uncommon for me to have 3 straight neat bourbons after getting home from work in a day. And this was just general practice on the daily for me. And what it did was it just took me out of having to feel all of the pain and the hurt that was inside because I hadn't processed through it. Um,
oh, Tressen.
so
How many people though? How many
oh,
people are doing that?
yeah. Well, and I will tell you that, we all have different ways of disassociating ourselves and really taking ourselves out of the reality. And we can do it by shopping. We can do it by,
Mhm.
hiding away in our room. We can do it by, oh gosh, there's so many ways. We can do it by over talking. We can do it by it's just there's so many ways to really remove yourself from what's actually going on. So, I was married during that time and we decided we wanted to have kids and we decided that on purpose. And we said, well, we want to have kids. And so I knew that I had to get my act together. I really knew that I had to because underneath all of this stuff, Roberta, I was a healthy, loving person in my heart and my soul. I had grown up knowing right from wrong, and I
Yeah.
knew what I was doing was wrong. I just didn't know how to do it. So that's when I really started seeking out these teachers and embodying the material because I knew I wanted to have a baby. And that's when, I mean, I was still smoking cigarettes. I was drinking heavily. Not so long before that, I was still partaking of drugs. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. There's more traumatic things that happened in my life prior to this, and even more than I've even gone into and told you, but I was off track. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was. I was so lost. So once I decided to have a little kid, I was like, hold up, you got to get your act together. And that's really what promoted that. So my kids were the turning point for me.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I thought it was going to be like as they were older or
Oh,
something. So no, you're like, I'm bringing lives into this world. I need to be right
yeah,
and need to be the best of me.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you still, because I'm going to tell you what, this is a journey that we have realized and understand and embracing that I'm going to continue to grow for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And it just keeps getting better. And you keep coming, things just keep coming up. And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this just a couple weeks ago, this huge light bulb.
Yes.
I'm like, what? How did
Hmm.
I not see this?
Right.
How do we, the biggest thing is to be aware.
Yeah. Yeah. It's to consciously create your life on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, we have these things that come in, and as they come in, we get to decide in that moment if we can use somatic practices to pause. One of the things that I'm learning about right now is called internal family systems, and we can cast, but it's basically about what goes on inside of you when something comes up. You know, when you were a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old in your life and something happened to you, you sort of latched on to a protective mechanism with inside of yourself that was there to protect you. And every negative behavior that we do holds a positive intention. So say for instance, your mom is on the phone and you're trying to get her attention and she's pushing you away or whatever. And so what you do is you get louder or you start pulling on her shirt or whatever. And you're like, you want to get her attention. So if your mom was healthy, she would turn towards you, she would pause on the phone and she would say, honey, I love you so much. And what you have to say to me is so important. Can we wait a couple of minutes and then I'll find you and you can tell me everything you want to say? Well, how much of us had a parent that did that, right? Okay, so what we do as little kids is all of a sudden we get louder.
Mhm.
And we, like me being the middle child, I used a really loud voice. And now I learned how to change that voice, how I can use that voice for power, but in a different way. And so, you know, your love, safety, and belonging, your attachment to your parent is threatened in that moment, even though it's just a simple phone call. Those things are threatened. So what do? You take on a protective mechanism inside of you when you're 3 or 4 of getting louder to get attention.
Mhm.
And it's a negative behavior, but it has a positive intention behind it.
Yeah.
So now you're using that as something and it kind of gets stuck in there. So when we can find these beautiful moments, Roberta, like you just said, you were like, oh God, just a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
When you see that aha moment and you're consciously choosing to create your life, you can use that and you can unleash that 3-year-old and now take that 55-year-old self and love her so much that she doesn't have to use that loud voice anymore to get
Yeah.
that attention or to get that attachment. And now what you're doing is you're giving yourself everything that you need with the power of that beautiful internal conscious awareness and love that that kid needed when it was 3. You don't need your mom to say hello. Maybe your mom never changes. Maybe to this day, she still does that. So, what you do now is you're nurturing the self. You're self led and you're nurturing that little 3-year-old, and you can start to begin to let go of those pieces and replace them with empowering new ways of being that heal you from the inside out so that you no longer need anything to make you happy.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what Unleash Her. So I have to tell you, that was so beautiful. And this was almost a year ago when Unleash Her came to me, okay, came
Mhm.
about. And I couldn't do anything with it because I wasn't her. I wasn't there
Yes.
yet.
Mhm.
Like it was like it's there on paper. And I thought, but that's not me yet. That's who I want to be.
Yes.
That's what I'm striving toward.
Yeah,
So that is about confidence, which is self-love. Always
absolutely.
starts with self-love. And really, once you start doing that and taking care of yourself and being aware of those things, because sometimes I still will catch myself and it's like, oh, no, 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 no,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
That you're walking with confidence. You are walking into this room with confidence. And
Yes.
it is something that we will spend the rest of our lives continuing to work and becoming that person.
Absolutely. And knowing that we can become that. So you had that beautiful person on paper, the vision that you had, and you knew it was
Mhm.
living within you the whole entire time. And the beautiful thing is that we get to grow into being that woman. We get to unleash that part of ourselves.
Yeah.
So, and the dog is barking. So I
Great.
apologize for that. Hold on.
Oh, no worries. But the thing is, too, I mean, that was all pulled out of me through, this like conversation that I had with some friends. And so I just let it all out. And they took this and put it actually into this was like Chat GPT, AI. So, and this is what it spit out.
Isn't that awesome? It is just amazing. It's like all of that stuff is just living inside of you. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
find it so
Yeah.
cool to hear that part of your story because you want to know what it is. It's this resilient piece of you that didn't give up on that.
Hmm.
And surrounding yourself with people who encouraged you to go there, encouraged you to follow your dream, and who supported you. You know, so many times we have to let go of people in our lives who don't hold that type of space for us.
Right.
And that's a scary thing to do sometimes,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
really step into that because we may be surrounded by people who are not ready to go there. And also, they don't want
Hmm.
us to go there because they're afraid they're going to lose us.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That they're going to lose us and that we become too different or something. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes
Oh.
that has to happen. And it is part of the growth process, I think. You know, I can't be the mother that I am today and still come home and drink 3 bourbons in the evening with my
Mhm.
spouse.
Yeah.
I had to decide and make a conscious decision to move forward from that.
Yeah.
And it's been the best thing that I've ever done. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're so inspiring and
Thanks.
you're such a good speaker. So
Thank you.
you've got these books coming out and what else? Like, what do you want to do? I mean, what is
Well,
your
you know, I have been speaking at these women's retreats and I have been sharing my story to groups of women. And what I learned about myself is that I love to speak and I love to be in front of people. And I want to have the biggest ripple effect I can possibly have. So I want to get in front of many people as I possibly can. So this year will be my year of speaking. With that, I will be placing myself in front of groups of people who have the ability to not only influence their own core beliefs and their identity and how they take themselves out into the world, but the people that they serve. So I'll be working with people
Mhm.
like parent teacher groups, educators, human resource groups, LGBTQ plus allies, people who are advocates for sobriety and being drug free, all of those people who are taking their knowledge and then using that to empower the people that they teach and that they're around every day. And so that's really what I'm super passionate about, is speaking and coaching, getting
Yeah.
in front of groups. Right now, most of my clients are individual clients, and I want to just really expand that this year.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I think retreats are so valuable because I think spending several days with someone
Hmm.
is so because what happens is that we would get on these calls for an hour and then I'd have to go back into my daily life. And it was like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, exactly.
And
You get the time to actually put into practice some of those things that you're doing. So, the next retreat that I'll be at will be August. It'll be, let's see, it's the 3rd through the 10th, and it'll be in Costa Rica. And we'll be there for 8 days. So you get the opportunity to see 2 or 3 women speak, and whoever that is that resonates with you and what it is that you want to do for your life. So I believe that that's really true. Anybody that might be listening to this podcast who feels like they're just kind of tippy toeing on the verge of unleashing their own
Mhm.
soul power and their vibrance, and really being, brave enough to step into the next phase of who they are, try a retreat.
Yeah.
Because you can go to one, most of the retreats that I've spoken at might be 26 women, somewhere around there, and everybody is in the same place together. And you form these, just these beautiful connections with these other women who are there with a like mindset. And they're going to support you and they want to hold you in that space while you're there. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Community, being around others. It, that's how we met.
Yes.
And so it's been so beautiful watching your growth. I am so proud of you. And gosh, thank you for being on here today. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you. It was so good catching up with you. We're gonna
Thank
have to
you,
do this
Roberta, so
again.
much. I appreciate being on. And I'm also really, really proud of everything that you've accomplished and can't wait to see what you continue doing. It's
Um,
fantastic. And Paige as well. So,
yeah. Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you for sharing your story. It was very inspiring. And I know that some people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, whoa, I can do this. I can get
Yes.
out of this. And
Yes.
so thank you again. And yeah, we will have all of your information here for people if they would like to come and search you out. And I'm so excited and keep doing what you're doing. And thank you again.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.